We start with another chant from the Vedas, okay? It's a very interesting chant. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Last is Om Peace Peace Peace. Okay. Now, please tell me if my voice goes low, because I speak very softly, so if you say, I'll increase my volume a bit. This mantra is also from the Rig Veda, comes from very old sources, maybe 2000 years ago or maybe more, we don't know. And it talks about completeness. Purna. Purna means completeness. I had a very good friend in Germany who used to live in Aachen many years. He's no more. His soul is in happiness, but he is no more physically. So when he wanted to learn this mantra, so I taught him. So he wrote it in German and stuck it in his car. And then after 1 week he said, what is this mantra? I said, Purna, Purna, Pur, 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 I can't chant it. So don't worry about chanting. So let me first literally translate it. Then we'll look into this. Purnam Ada means that is complete. Purnam Idam, this is complete. Purnat Purnamaduchyate, from that completeness, this completeness has come. Strange. Purnasya Purnamataya. If you take this completeness out of that completeness, sounds like Einstein. If you if this completeness has come from that completeness, still, Purnameva Avashishyate, the completeness remains complete. Which means from that completeness, nothing can be taken away. Although it appears as if it has stepped down a few steps and is this completeness, but actually nothing is minus when you take from it. It's not like you have a piece of bread. You eat one piece, one side, and the rest is become less. But here, you eat the bread and it's still full. People think it's a philosophical concept. It is a philosophical concept also, but it is the reality. In the physical sciences, in the material sciences, Einstein hit it properly when he said that energy is always constant and it can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. Now here, we are saying that the consciousness is also complete. And what you call energy is also consciousness. What we call physical material energy. You sitting here, I am sitting here, we think we are separate. This has come from that spiritual completeness. And even if this has become different, it's actually one. It can't be changed. It can't be subtracted because it is always full. It is fullness. I would call it fullness or completeness. You can use any word. You know what I mean. And that is why sometimes some great spiritual teachers, not like me, I'm always talking and making noise. Some great spiritual teachers are so absorbed in that fullness that like a full vessel, there is no noise. It is full. You see, when it is half empty, then when you dip inside, sound comes when the water goes in. But when it is full, nothing to say. Which is why Ramana Maharshi, who lived in Tiruvannamalai, hardly spoke. I'm trying to bring this from that completeness to this completeness. From that abstract idea of completeness to how that completeness is touched by a human being and he becomes complete. And yet it remains the same. Nothing has been drained. Which is not like our ordinary life, normal life. Oh, right? We have a glass of wine and we wish it remains till evening, but it becomes empty very fast. And you want some more. So it is exhausted, it is finished. But here perhaps, let's not believe now, but perhaps there is something which is inexhaustible and which is always there and which you can't take anything out of it. Once you understand this, then you know you are part of it. Not even part of it. There is no you, then there is only that. That, it's very interesting. In another tradition, the Jewish tradition, there was this great prophet who goes up to the mountain, and the sacred mountain. Well, there have been sacred mountains there too. Anybody knows the name of the mountain where Moses went? Huh? Yeah, Sinai. No? Now we have Sinai summits and so on. But so anyway, he goes up the mountain, like we go up the mountains in the Himalayas. No less, you can go up here also. And he hears a voice saying, "You are on sacred ground. Take off your shoes." So we have put our shoes outside, right? Taking out your shoes means not bringing the dirt inside. It doesn't mean anything else. It means you walk around. There's a lot of dirt, you bring the old dirt inside now. Keep it clean. And also with your shoes, some of you may have good shoes, some may have bad shoes, so your egos are left behind. You come free. So Moses is instructed. I'm trying to see another tradition, which is, I was now talking about the Indian tradition. I think they're linked somewhere. And I have now separated. So he takes off his shoes and enters. And then he says the burning bush. He says the burning bush because there's no other explanation. He hasn't seen anything like that before. There's a light behind the tree, the bush. So they call it the burning bush. Of course, nobody lit a fire, there was no burning bush. It's the light. So, a little confused and not knowing what this is all about, the prophet asks the question, "What is this? Who are you?" And the answer is very similar. The word used is very similar to the word in Sanskrit in the Upanishads, which says tat, which means that. Tat. When you say tat, it's actually, I think, maybe that is derived from tat. I don't know. It means that which is. That. And no one can define it. So, Moses hears the voice from the burning bush which says, in Hebrew, Ahiye, Ashar Ahiye, which means I am that I am. I am that. I am. There's no way you can. And this is a perfect description of Tat, which is also called completeness, Purna. And that completeness pervades everything. There is nothing. And, as I said, some great teachers, having touched that completeness, don't even know how to express it, and they just keep quiet. But if someone has touched it, then when somebody goes there, gradually it penetrates without words. Look at me wasting my words. It just happens. I have sat with my master many times without speaking anything. Well, he did teach me many things, but many times if I asked him a question, he would say, "Shut up. Look at the river, watch the flow." I can't say that. There are many people who ask me questions. If I say, "Shut up," they get very upset. But then I had completely surrendered. So anyway, I'm talking about Ramana Maharshi, one of the people who perhaps touched that. And look at any of his pictures. Have you seen any picture of Ramana Maharshi with his eyes closed? No, they're open. Because there is no outer and there is no inner, it's all one. For him, we need to close a little bit to touch it. Perhaps in his early days he did close his eyes. But once he touched the completeness, if everything is complete, there is no distinction between the out and the in. It's over. We close because we are distracted. Well, I close because if I don't close, nobody will close their eyes. People ask me, do you every day practice Kriya? Do you meditate every day? I say, yeah. Why? Because if I stop, everybody will stop. They will go, we are illumined. It's all over, finished. So, I'm telling you this story because it will give you a picture of what we are trying to look at. We are looking at. I am not looking at, you and I are looking at. There was this very famous and very well known in India, not here, scholar, philosopher in the south, whose name was Ganapati Shastri. It was his name, you don't have to remember it, Ganapati Shastri. So, there was no section of Indian philosophy which he hadn't touched. He knew everything from Vedanta to Tantra to Yoga. Believe me, they're all different streams. Although there has been an attempt many times to bring them together, but they're different streams. Vedanta, Yoga, Tantra, all that. Bhakti, which is devotion. There was not a textbook existing in these matters which he had not read, and whose commentaries he had not read. There was no technique he hadn't tried. He spent many years to. But he felt that there was always a barrier. There was a barrier between him and the truth which he was seeking, the completeness, the fullness. There was a barrier. Try as he might, he couldn't get free of the barrier. So he was looking for somebody who probably could help him, because study he had done enough. Nobody could teach him anything. I mean, as far as books and scriptures are concerned. So in this search, he went to Tiruvannamalai, and there somebody told him that there is a man sitting on the mountain up there He was not well known at that time. They said there's a Brahmin Swami sitting up there. Maybe you should go and see him. He might help you. Who knows? So he climbed up the mountain and went there. So when he went there, he saw Maharishi, Ramana Maharshi, sitting there quietly. His eyes were open as usual, but they were not focused on anything in particular. So he sat there for well over half an hour, but there was no sign of recognition, because he was not looking at him. It was just wide open, everything was there. After half an hour, he thought maybe he has noticed me. I'm sure he might have made signs, but nothing happened. Because suddenly his gaze narrowed down on him and he looked at him. So, and then he hardly talked. Many of the books you find are discussions by others who have heard him here and there in small. There's only one little booklet which is kind of complete. The rest is all conversations here. He looked at him, and instead of asking him verbally, he put up his hand and did like this. Which means, what? Why have you come? What's the matter? Our friend Ganapati Shastri was ready for the coup, just waiting to see the signal. We started off. He told him it's a complete religious history, how he started, where he was, what he read, what he did, everything for half an hour non-stop, like a dam burst. And then he finished. And he said, now still there is a barrier between the truth and me. What should I do now? How do I break the barrier? Maharshi smiled and said, can you shut up for a minute? Too much material not digested. You know what I mean? Yeah. What happens when you eat too much and it doesn't get digested? We're always in the toilet. So, I'm just trying to give you an idea of that which has no ideas. The rishis of the Upanishad said, how am I going to teach this to you? Because if you use words, it fails. If you don't use words, it remains untaught. So what do you do? So it is this completeness. Now, regarding this, I'm preparing you regarding this. I'm sure you might have gone into many traditions and know many things, but I need to. It's a satsang. If I shut up, I'm not Ramana Maharshi. Say, what's going on? They say, satsang is out. So, there was a very, very learned professor, like our man Ganapati Shastri. This is in Japan. Very learned. He knew everything, including Laozi's teachings and Confucius, everything. And Zen, many things. He went to a Zen master and told him, Master, in Japan if you meet a master you must bow down so many times that very soon you get a backache. And he said, please teach me Zen. Teach me how to attain Satori. You know, in the Zen teaching, Satori is illumination, where you discover the oneness of everything, where everything is burst and there is only the river flowing. So he said, please give me Satori, teach me Zen. The master said, sit down, let's have a cup of tea. This is strange. I come for a very serious affair, Chaturi. And the man says, have a cup of tea. Silly. So he said, okay. But then with Zen masters, they're not like me. You can't say anything because you might get kicked. So he just kept quiet. So the master, not that, brought the tea and put a cup on the table and started pouring the tea. And the cup became full and he continued pouring the tea, so the tea was coming out of the cup. Now our professor was watching for some time, then he couldn't control himself. He said, sir, the cup is overflowing. So the master turned to the professor and said, your cup is overflowing. How can I give you Zen? Because whatever you put inside will come out. There is no space. So, this space has to be there to understand this, which in the Upanishad is called, in another Upanishad says, Isha Vashyam Idam Sarvam. It pervades everything here, everywhere. Now to touch that, of course, there are techniques to calm the mind and make, all that is fine. But deep down, psychologically, the preparation is to become empty, to have space, to not have prejudices, to not carry prejudices with us, to be free. You can go from any tradition, it doesn't matter. But there has to be space, and there are many kinds of space. One is philosophical space, which means too much of undigested matter is not going to help. Then there is psychological space. So first we'll deal with the psychological space. Our minds are so constantly occupied with something, almost obsessed, that there is no space to receive anything from infinite. First, in our own daily life, we are so caught up. Okay, now there are ways by which you can calm down. There is meditation, there are various things. Or go off into the mountains. Here we have beautiful mountains. You don't have to go away from home. Stay in your home and look. That's one side of the story. The other is the wounds and the hurts and the hatred that we carry in our hearts. This is the biggest barrier to space. It's muck. If you don't clean this muck, there is no space for it to happen. And when there is space, it doesn't have to come from outside. It is also here, inside. There is no barrier between outside and inside. Example. I'm talking about the psychological obsessions we have. Suppose I'm just going to use somebody's name, but it doesn't mean anything. Okay, nothing personal. Suppose this lady, Shalini, had some years ago given me a tight slap. I know you didn't. I'm just tight slap. Angry with me for not teaching her how to be free. And now I want to ask you this. There is no philosophy here, reality. How long does a slap last?
Very long.
Very long? In the mind. An actual slap, the physical action of a slap, lasts for 10 minutes, 1 day, or if your tooth is broken, maybe 2-3 days. Generally, it lasts for a few moments. There's a red mark, of course, if you're fair, and then fades off by evening. Over. Actual act of her slap is over. But will we allow it to go? No. We have the psychological slap. Why? She slapped me in public. How could she do this? What? For 20 years I will carry the slap in my head till it becomes a festering wound with pus. We are asking, is it possible to throw it off? Can we clear it? Now people look suspiciously at you, okay? Every night we go to sleep, right? Sleep is like a mini death. Yeah. We don't know where we are. We don't know what's happening. It's like a mini death. So can we, in the night when we sleep, before we go to sleep, throw this slap out through the window and get up in the morning fresh as if nothing has happened? Is this possible? I think it's possible. It requires a little bit of effort. And it's possible and it's true because actually the slap is not there, except in my mind, like a tape recorder. Or nowadays no tape recorder, like a CD. It keeps playing and playing and playing repeatedly. There is no peace, there is no space. I can't think. Moment I think, it's all settled down. Shalini slapped. And practically this is possible to eliminate also, not only philosophically. Philosophically it is gone when you know that it really isn't there, it doesn't matter. Let's lead our life, throw it out of the window, move. This is the moment, this is actually the meaning of what Buddha said when he said his monks to go forth. Not necessarily mean walking. Go forth means get out of the stagnant little pool that you have created. Step out. Move. Right? So, when I was a young man, well, my mind is still young, but when I was a young man physically, with my master in the Himalayas, with Babaji, when he told me how to meditate, close your eyes, relax, and then open your eyes and look at the trees and the mountain, whatever, some techniques. When he taught me this, there was one problem. When I was young, there was one guy who troubled me a lot. So I could get rid of every image, everything. But the moment the mind was beginning to become calm, the image of this guy will come in front of me. And I didn't know what to do. I actually hated him. I'm being honest. So one day with Babaji it was strange. You didn't have to tell him. So one day he walked past when I was sitting. And he said, "Why are you meditating on this guy?" किसका ध्यान करते हो? So I said, "Babaji, I can't help it. This guy, he's there." Okay? He said, "Fine. Every day?" I said, "Not every day, but many days." Okay. He said, "Next time when you sit down to meditate, even if he doesn't appear before your mind, you conjure him and deliberately bring him." I said, "But that's the end of my meditation." He said, "No, you bring this guy in front of you, make him stand in front of you, then bow down to him and touch his feet and say, 'You are the divine, come in some form to teach me a lesson.'" If possible, from your mind, imagine that you have some flowers and put it at his feet. Go down and say that you are a great teacher who has come in this form to teach me something. I am thankful to you. Please keep teaching me these lessons. First day was difficult for me. Second day, third day, okay. Believe me, on the sixth day, the man disappeared. The image didn't like me offering flowers and they thought that I think there was something problem there from that side, not from my side. Since then till this day, I've not had a single problem from that memory. So sometimes we have to move forward from these memories. If they are pleasant memories, okay. But don't keep regretting, oh, it was so nice, now it's... As long as you say, oh, that was nice, that's fine. And when it is bad, throw them out, because they are not there now with us. So this is the psychological aspect of that. And I personally, my experience is that when you touch that completeness, which we all seek in some form or the other. Why do we think we live in this world? Because we are seeking to become complete. Well, I have a family, but I don't have children, so I'm not complete. Not me. I have everything, but I don't have a job, I'm not complete. I have everything, but I don't look nice, I'm not complete. And then the inevitable fate that I'm going to die, so I'm not complete. Who's going to live forever? So there is this desire, constant desire to become complete, to become full. This is how life is moving. And we never seem to find it outside. So if it can be found inside, you will also see it reflected outside. And it is my experience, and the experience of many, that it comes when our small little selfish personality, which is only thinking about myself, is gone. And then I think of you, I think of it. If your pain is my pain, it's no longer localized. And therefore, your happiness is my happiness. And this is not theory or philosophy, this is the experience of those who have touched that completeness, that Purna, that all-pervading something which is so indescribable that emptiness is the best word to describe it. But that is not the emptiness of nothing. It is the emptiness from which everything starts. Did I tell you the story yesterday about the banyan tree? It's that what looks to be empty to us, but which is full. And this world looks so full to us, but it is empty. When you understand that, the world is also complete. So we have now come in this stage of evolution of the human mind, average human mind, that we can find that truth right here, living in the when I say normal way, wearing normal clothes, eating, drinking. When I say drinking, don't think it's only alcohol. And with a family, have a job. The days when you had to find the truth by running off into the cave is over. In this stage of evolution, we can evolve while we are here. In any case, if you go to a cave, well, if you're waiting for some practical ways of finding this, we'll come to that, don't worry. I'm not going to just talk theory and go home. Suppose I go to a cave. My master, Babaji, used to tell me, you go to a cave, you meditate for 30 years, 10 hours a day. And then you say, now I am free, I am joyful, I have touched that. I no longer have envy or jealousy or anger against anybody. I am free. So he asked me the question, inside the cave, Who are you going to be angry with? Is there anybody who get angry with? Are you jealous of the walls of the cave? Do you hate the cave? No. So how do you know that you are free of it? It's only when you come out. Of course, periods of solitude are very good, very important. I'm not saying that. But it can be tested only on this, in the world. He said, if you come out from the cave and then you get into the bus and somebody kicks you in the bus, you know, the buses in India are very crowded, and especially if she's wearing a stiletto heel, then you know if you have freed this beautiful bird there, white and black. Then you know that you have freed yourself from anger, from jealousy, from reaction. You don't know when you're sitting inside. Of course, you should sit for some time. You don't have to go to the cave. You can make your own room the cave in the house. There's a great writer who, when he sat down to write, put up a board at the door saying, if the house burns down, please don't call me. You can make your own cave at home. But what I'm trying to say, that it is when you interact with the world that you're really able to see where you stand or where I stand. Same thing. So therefore keep all these things in mind. And the paths are many. The goal is fulfillment, complete fulfillment, total fullness, completeness. This is what we are all seeking, every one of us, even those who are not spiritually inclined. They are seeking the same thing in a different way. But you never seem to find a solution. Now, if 2 or 3 people understand this and start living this way, I think we can change the world. Unfortunately, we really can change the world. If the people sitting here in this hall think, yes, you can change the world. Because you see, in the highest of spiritual experience, you actually see that you're one. You're not different. What I said was all talk and theory, but in actual experience. So, where do we start? I'm sure many people who have read my book would have read that I follow Kriya Yoga as my, we call it parampara, my tradition. But believe me, everybody does not have to be a Kriya Yogi to reach there. There have been several people who have touched that without practicing any Kriya whatsoever. Well, it's my tradition, but I'm telling you honestly, I have nothing to hide and nothing to protect. The Ramana Maharshi we talked about, what Kriya did he do? Nothing. And some great saints who found that just by love, what Kriya did they do? Nothing. So it's not as if only those who practice Kriya can, that would be terrible. What about others? This is not possible. If there is universal justice, this is not possible. However, I have found that Kriya is useful to make your mind quiet and tranquil and calm. Because for all that we discussed, the starting point is a quiet mind, a tranquil mind. Without a tranquil mind is like a tarmac, like a runway from which you can take off. Swiss air. So, therefore, all practices, spiritual practices, are meant to bring about a tranquil and quiet mind. We will therefore, before this gathering is finished at some point, we will discuss the beginning of Kriya, because the whole of Kriya is a little, you might give up in 2 days. So we will discuss the preliminaries of Kriya. You don't have to pay for it freely. We'll come to that maybe tomorrow. What is Kriya? How is it done? And then perhaps the preliminaries, which you practice for some time and then discover if it works, and then get back to me. We can do that. But now, it's nearly 45 minutes since we started. I promised you yesterday that this is going to be a satsang, which means there has to be interaction. Right now, I've been speaking and speaking and speaking. I know I go and speak, people listen, it comes in from one ear, goes out to the then they go back, and we are back to square one.
So I have questions.
So, yeah. So, we there's a famous man in India who wrote a book called The Argumentative Indian. I'm not saying about you. In India we have too much discussion, very much. But in the end, generally we come out to the other door. So, anyway. So I'm now going to lay it open so that we can discuss the matter. And since he put up his hand first, I'm going to ask him to say what he wants. His question.
So something which always plays in my mind.
Sir.
The basic difference in following the path of Dharma. And very often we hear that the spiritualists say, just have love and you achieve everything. And what is actually difference in the path of love and the path of Dharma?
You see, these are two words. These are just two separate words, but it means the same thing. The greatest Dharma is not to hurt others, not to create injury to others, not to cause grief to others, but to have affection towards everybody. This is the complete definition of Dharma. Some people think Dharma means, doing my duty. Ultimately all this has been prescribed to finally come to this. When a man does his duty, he is already less selfish because he is doing it for others. When he grows more, then everybody becomes his family. So he's working for everybody. That is Dharma. But this is how it starts. Okay? Now, there are some qualities which we need to develop to actually lead a dharmic life. When you say dharmic, it means a religious life. And these are, one is that we need to know how to keep our sense organs under control and not allow them to run mad. I'm not saying you should not indulge or use them, but like all things, there has to be a moderation. You should know when to stop and when to move. So that is the first step. And this you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna asks Krishna, according to you, who is the greatest of yogis? Who is the greatest of devotees? Please, can you give me a definition? Krishna says, it doesn't matter how he worships me or in which way worship takes place, with form, without form, it doesn't matter, but needs to have certain qualities of mind. If these qualities are there, I consider him to be the greatest of yogis. You will find it in the 12th chapter called Bhakti Yoga. And one quality first is that you will find that he has managed to keep his senses under control. And please, he is teaching it to Arjuna, who is not a monk. So it cannot be that he is asking him to be completely free of the senses. Keep them under your control and not allow your mind to run away with the senses. That's all. And the second, sarvatra samabuddhaya, which means to remain tranquil at all times under all circumstances. Whether tulya ninda stutirmoni, whether somebody is praising you or somebody is insulting you or abusing you, can you maintain your equilibrium? Comes to practice. Can you maintain? In fact, I think it's better to be criticized than to be flattered. Because if somebody keeps flattering you, you might really believe what he says.
Yeah.
After some time. You know, for 100 days, if 100 people get up in the morning and say, "You're God," on the 101st day, I might think I'm God. Flattery is dangerous. So, one has to be careful. On the other hand, if somebody criticizes, at least you begin to wonder, maybe let me examine myself. It's a good mirror, you know. So, both are equal. A yogi is one who, when there is pleasure, welcomes it. Doesn't run away from it, welcomes it. It's like calling a good friend. Pleasure comes, please come in, sit down, have a cup of tea, okay? Now time is up, get out. And when pain comes, the same treatment. Come, sit down, have a cup of tea, go home. So this is the other quality that is part of dharma, practicing of dharma. Sarvatra samabuddhaya. During all circumstances, keep your mind tranquil, because actually your true essence is that complete, all-pervading reality. Who cares what other people think? And then also, these are all meanings which we give to words. Suppose I don't know English and you call me a fool, what does it matter? I know Hindi, let's say, and you call me a fool. I might think you're calling me a flower, because in Hindi, fool means flower. So it's all constructed by us through language, through form. So to remain tranquil in the midst of circumstances. 2. And the third quality, sarvabhuta hiterata, to have the welfare of all living beings in your heart. These 3, because the dharma, the word you use, is from our tradition, Indian tradition. And the greatest advocate of Indian tradition is the Gita. So I am giving you this from the Gita as a definition for dharma.
So also for the ones who troubled. Also for the ones who trouble the person. Because if you look at Gita,
I'm not saying that somebody breaks into your house and tries to kill you, you shouldn't defend yourself.
okay.
That's not what I mean. You get what I mean?
Yes.
I am doing nothing. Somebody wants to come and trouble me, kill me, break the... You have to defend yourself. But have no hatred. From the bottom of your heart, you must be committing a mistake. So what can you do about it?
So why did Lord Krishna ask Pandavas to forgive Duryodhanas? Why was the war needed? If the principle of love has to be...
This is a question which has been asked to me 100 times in India.
Sorry, I didn't know.
See, there are 2 things in this. The Bhagavad Gita is not only, it was written by Vyasa. It's not only a scripture of the situation at that point, it is also a situation of the mind.
Yes.
There are 2 warring factions in the mind. One is that which takes you down, the other which takes you up. So the request is, to be spiritual does not mean to become weak. Forgiveness is a great strength. It's not weakness. It's the weak who cannot forgive. It's a great strength. You stand on it. So it also has a spiritual and allegorical meaning. But as far as the practical is concerned, Arjuna was a king, and it was his duty to protect those who were pulling people down. And you know the meaning of Duryodhana?
Context, yeah.
What is the meaning of Duryodhana? Wealth of evil. Durya.
Yeah, without wisdom.
And Dhana is wealth.
Yes.
So to keep such people at arm's length is useful for the administrators, not for us.
But the same situation also arises in the personal life, let's say in family relations. And people do wrong to you. And you want to be a good person, so you think, I should forgive or I should not forgive.
You should forgive.
Okay.
Because look, in the ultimate essence, nobody can really do anything to our true essence. If you are fixed there, then these things don't matter really. And in fact, when you are full, the fullness flows and you want to share it with others. And the fullness is always auspicious. It's called Shivam because it is auspicious. Not the Shiva who sits with the snake. That's a symbol of a yogi, but Shivam actually means consciousness, bliss, and auspiciousness. Chidananda Rupam Shivoham Shiva. That is in all of us. And to move towards that is the spiritual journey.
It's clear.
Yes. See, all from Indians.
So,
My country.
oneness is the essential nature of man. Why is it so difficult to experience it?
Huh?
If oneness is the essential nature of human being, why is it so difficult to experience?
I don't know. It's so difficult because everybody believes in differentness. And to say it's oneness, it's so difficult to understand. But once it is understood, that person finds that everything is one. Because we have been brought up like that. We have been taught to be so competitive. We have been taught that I am different, you are different. So this whole culture goes into, not only in India, also in the West, everywhere. There's this culture of isolation and separation which has buried this truth of being one. So now it is an uphill task to figure it out. One more from my country. Because there we have a large, big tradition of so many scriptures, so everybody is confused. I'm sorry.
What is the fine line between love and moha?
Could you speak up a bit?
He said, what is the fine line between love and moha? Now, what is moha, sir? Moha means
Possession.
obsession. Obsession. I said yesterday, do you remember what I said? That this is a beautiful world, no question. It's complete in itself. There are beautiful flowers, there are beautiful other things, there are beautiful children, kids, there are beautiful ladies, there are beautiful men. It's all there. There is no harm in giving love and sharing love. But when it becomes an obsession, when I become possessive about it, when I want this for only myself. You see this beautiful garden, there are flowers. The moment I decide I need to pluck this flower and put it in my pocket, the problem starts. If it is there, it's fine. This is the difference between moha and love, because that is an obsession. Do you know that the famous English dramatist who was Irish. George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw, it was said, loved flowers. So a journalist went to his house and said, I heard that you love flowers. Why is it that I don't find any flowers in your house, in the flower vase? And nothing, there are no flowers. And people say you love flowers. So he opened the window and look at the garden there, they're beautiful, he said. Lovely flowers. I also love children very much. I don't cut their heads and put them in vases inside my house. To do that is moha. To see it and appreciate and love it is love.
Practically speaking,
You can.
For example, I love my grandson very much.
Okay.
Okay. Now, every time, every day I call him.
Okay.
He calls me every day.
Okay.
Where do we stop?
You have to stop somewhere. Well, I'm a married man myself. I have 2 kids who have got married. They still haven't got children, so I can't tell you how I would be at that point. No, it's practical. But, you see, to love your own child or your own grandson is not a big deal. Everybody does that. We are chemically built to do that. Even the monkeys love their kids. No offense meant. Right? You see how they hang on to their tummy when they go? But if I say, I love also somebody else's grandson, then I am growing. But it's not easy because there is this blood connection, you know. It's not so easy. So in the spiritual life, as you go up, things change. You not only love what you think is yours, but also what others think is theirs. This growing is what is called love. And it takes time for different people, it takes different time. Everybody doesn't have the same speed of growth. And you don't have to imitate anybody. And there is nothing wrong in loving your grandson. I'm not saying that. It should not become an obsession in the sense that one day if I don't call, I can't meditate, I can't sleep. Yeah. So the best thing then is, I saw a nice little Claudius kid walking around here. Little boy. So a couple of days, instead of talking to him, talk to him. He's as sweet.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy. I understand it. It is not easy. Traditions are always there behind us. There are good things in traditions which you can accept. And as time moves, there are some things you can drop. Because now if 2 people are in love with each other, even physical love, normal love, 2 young people, let's say, are in love with each other. Let's not talk about philosophy, practical. Now, nobody knows why they love each other. The parents don't understand sometimes. The person who they love may be having nothing at all. He may be poor, but still I love him. Of course, we know that it is hormonal. That's only one side of the story. When the juices are fresh, there is a lot of this. But apart from that, there is this feeling that is indefinable. You cannot define it. There are 2 young people standing in the bus stop or near the railway station, looking at each other for 15 minutes without saying a word. What are they looking at? It can't be. Even if this cannot be defined, is it easy to define that oneness? It's also the physical desire of becoming one, because they are 2 separate individuals. Physically also. You see, all that the life revolves around is because two people want to become one. So it's built inside us. It's inside us. So if you understand that it is more to it than just physical, then we are moving. And you look, in India, many parents face such problems, especially when they come abroad. Their son is in love with somebody whom they don't want him to. Because why? She's not Indian. He's not. I'm saying it's time we drop these unnecessary traditions. That girl may be a better yogi than us. Who knows? See, the essence is important. The structures sometimes. Now, I want to tell you a small Sufi story. There was this great Sufi mystic called Jalaluddin Rumi, who wrote the Masnavi. He says about a person who goes to see his beloved. When he says beloved, it means the truth, the Supreme Being. What Mirabai was dying to see. So he goes to the door and he says, door is closed, beloved is inside. There's a sound coming from inside. Who are you that wants to see me? And he says, I am Rumi, I want to see you. He says, you're not ready, go back home. He comes back. He goes again. The same question, who are you? Why do you want to see me? That wants to see me. I'm Rumi, I love you, I want to see you. You're not ready, go home. The third day before going, Rumi meets his master, who was like a madman. You know, if sanity has brought us to this state, I think it's better to go mad. All the war that's going on throughout the world is because human beings are very sane. It's better to be insane. Anyway, so he meets his master, who says, your approach is wrong, and whispers something into his ear. So he goes, again knocks, because he has heard the saying, knock and it shall be opened unto thee. New Testament. He knocks, and then the voice asks again, who are you that is wanting to see me? He said, it is you, there is nothing but you. Then the door is opened. It says, come in. There is no you, there is no I, there is only that. And that is the I of the truth. Did we say that there is a break in between for a cup of tea? So we can break and come back again, maybe in 5-10 minutes. 10 minutes?
And the fourth Indian after question.
Huh?
And the fourth Indian after question.
Indian is talking. I'm just saying, don't take me wrong. I'm just saying because actually I'm glad because people think about very philosophical matters. But I'm only worried that it's not put into practice a little bit. If we could do that, we would be a great place. We can have it after tea.
Sure.
Don't ask me during tea. Thank you.
Kom maak je ook een beetje veel meer. Mooi.
We all have a heart. She said, can you say some words? So, where did I put my heart now? Oh, it's here. Yeah. So, there are two options for the rest of morning satsang. There are two options. You can choose. And after that, we can have a interaction if you like. One option is a philosophical option of looking at our inner being. That's one option. The other option also takes you there, but this is a story option. You know, many teachers spoke in parables, but this is not a parable. This is some of my experiences with my master in the Himalayas, which have not come in the autobiography, and which are coming in the next book. But because it's being launched in India on April 22nd. Yeah, April 22nd. And please, because I'm going to tell them, please not buy the book. Please don't. I'm joking. So, which option do you want? Do you want to go deep into philosophy?
Both options.
No, we have two more satsangs tomorrow. The first option, Anastasia, what I said was, it's about a small ancient Upanishad called the Mandukya Upanishad, which means the frog Upanishad. Manduk is frog. So that's one option. It's a little bit dry. We can also do it today or tomorrow, whenever you want. And because I want to make the best use of the time we have here. Tomorrow we would also keep some time, or today evening, for some practical. So, or the other option is some of my experiences with my master, Babaji, Maheshwarnath Babaji. So what would you like to have? Let's see. Both reach the same place. So we'll shift this Upanishad to the evening session. Okay? Because we have to do it. We can't leave. We can't simply sit with stories. So. Okay. So, the first story, it will come in the next book. So, if those who are not here can read it. I was very young, and I ran off to the Himalayas from home at the age of 19. So I was quite young and fresh. And I was with Babaji. You know the rest of it's in the autobiography. So we used to meet every evening when we were in Rishikesh. We used to meet every evening on the banks of the Ganga. I'm sorry I keep doing this because of this surgery bit here. We used to meet on the banks of the river Ganga in a quiet spot. We used to cross. There was no bridge then, so we had to catch a boat and cross and sit on the side in a quiet place and discuss many things. what I talk today, tomorrow, day after, they all came out of that discussion. Sometimes study. We never did it in a classroom. I feel very sad when I see students sitting inside classrooms. It's all closed. It's under the trees, near the river. It's beautiful. So, but then I was young, and Babaji, my personal master, Maheshwarnath Babaji, he had a phobia to photography. You know, not like here, every time somebody is photographing me. He didn't like photography. And he also did not want any, he knew that I also paint. My greatest hobby when I am not doing anything else is to paint. I love it. Not that I have sold many because people take them away. So he knew that I painted. So he had warned me, you are not to make a picture of me. No, because I don't believe in pictures. And he said, then the picture will become more important than the teaching. I don't want pictures, and no photograph. Once I tried, we were passing through near a studio, photographic studio. I said, Babaji, we go in there and take. He said, no. So, but then you are young, you know. When you are young, and it was only 1 year after I met Babaji. So I didn't know how his mind works perfectly. But I was kind of a rebel. When you're young, you're rebellious. So I thought he says that, how old are you? 26. Anybody 19 here? Not yet. So he says he doesn't want a photo, but I want a picture of him. Who knows what will happen? I need a picture of him. He says he doesn't want, but maybe I should manage somehow. I was fighting, I was rebelling, not knowing that before I thought he knew what I thought. But at that time I had no idea about this. So, if you go from Rishikesh on little more up, there is a place called Lakshman Jhula. I don't know if anybody has gone. And if you go to Lakshman Jhula, you cross a bridge. There's a German bakery there. Now. It's above the river. You can sit there and enjoy your bread and croissants and look at this. So, no sausages. So, so I went to Lakshman Jhula because there, even if you go now, near the bridge, you see many photographers. They will take your picture and give it to you in 1 hour back. So I became friendly. I planned everything. You know how we plan? In the war room, that way. I planned and I met this guy. 2-3 days, became very friendly with him. Got him a cup of tea and also figured out that he's a good photographer. And then I told him, I want you to do me some work. I'll give you some money. I explained where the river goes, the steps where we used to sit in the evening. I said, you have to come from the other side by boat, okay, with your camera. And don't show that you know me, okay? I'm a complete stranger for you. So you come on boat by the side, you will see me sitting on the side when you land with a man, tall man, who wears only a white cloth and bare body with matted hair like that. And earrings here, not here, here. You can't miss him because you can make, nobody who sees him can miss him. So I'll be sitting with him and I want you to First, you shouldn't show that you know me. You take many photographs. I planned everything. Take many photographs. Then you turn and you take one photograph of this. I don't want my photograph. This man. And then you just go off. Tomorrow, after that, I will come and take the picture. So the poor fellow didn't know anything about this. So he said, okay, but he was wondering why he shouldn't show that he knows me. I said, don't worry about it, do what I say. So that evening, by then I had begun to suspect that this man knows more things than I do, Babaji. So I was wondering, what if he says, today we are not going there? But it happened. He said, come, let's go. Chalo chalte hain. So we got into the port, we came here and we sat down. We were chatting about various things, not chat, discussing about various things. He was worried that the river was becoming dirty and, things like that. And I'm waiting for the photographer. Many boats came, 2-3 boats came that side, people got off. No sign of the photographer. And then it was becoming evening. So the sun, there is no light. The sunlight goes, how to take a photograph? So it was becoming dark. So I was thinking, this fellow, I have to go and meet him tomorrow and find out what's happening. Then Babaji suddenly turned to me and said, hey, that photographer of yours is not going to come now. वो तुम्हारा फोटोग्राफर नहीं आएगा अभी से. Said, Babaji, so you knew all along, right? Did he tell you? He said, no, he didn't. Please don't blame him. He didn't tell me. I told you I don't want photos, and you go and plan, and you have to, this fellow is not going to come now. So I said, okay, fine, who knows? And I said, then he gave me a beautiful talk on photography. Yeah, he said, suppose, how do you get photographs? He's talking about the old photographs with films, not the digital ones. He said, when the sun falls on an object, then the lights are reflected and they're caught by the lens and they come on the film. This is a photograph. So for a photograph, you need the light to fall on an object and reflect back. Yeah, I said, that much I understand. At school, I have read a little bit about it. Yeah. Then he said, suppose your photographer had come and he clicks a picture. Suppose I have the capacity to not allow the light which is falling on me to go back to the camera. Would he get a picture? I said, this is not possible. I was very young, logical mind, rational mind. So I said, well, this is not. If the light falls, it has to reflect. How can you prevent light from going back? Yeah, really? He said. And for a split second, I only saw a black silhouette in front of me, like a cardboard cutout. There was no face, there was no form, there was nothing. Black, like dark. And then it came back again. So I said, perhaps it is possible. He said, he said, you are such a doubting Thomas. Then, but the story didn't end there because I wanted to find out what happened to this fellow. So next day, in the morning, I went to search him in Lakshmanjula. He was there. And busy taking photographs of tourists. So I said, hey, what happened? He said, yeah, I'll come now, 2 minutes. Then he came. What happened? He said, look, next time, don't make me do such strange things. I said, Viju, what happened? He said, it's really very funny. It has never happened to me before. He comes from a place called Dehradun, which is far away. He has to catch a bus and so on. So he said, I adjusted the time and I got into the bus. After 10 minutes, the bus broke down. So this has never happened to me. So the bus broke down, so everybody got off. We all waited. Then a taxi came. Indian taxis those days are ambassadors. I don't know if you have seen one. They're like big chariots. You can put in about 8-9 people inside and go. So the ambassador came taxi, so he said, so about 8, he must have been the 8th or 9th, pushed inside, and it started off. He said we had gone about 10-15 minutes. There was a thud sound, grrr, and then the driver said the axle has broken at the back. And by then it was dark. So I thought that there is something wrong in this matter. It can't be, because it has never happened to me. So he said, please, don't ask me to do such strange things. Who is this man you want to... He probably didn't want a photograph and you forced me. So I said, I'm sorry, okay. Then he said, but I have to meet him. So in the evening I took him to meet Babaji. So Babaji tapped him and said, good photographer, So that is one story showing how people, spiritually advanced person who is unknown to the outside world almost. It's only when I wrote the book that some people came to know. This is because we agreed that we are having a story session. Okay? Yes or no? So, the next, I would love to go into philosophy. We'll do it in the next day. I went to another story. I was, 1 or 2 years after, 1.5 years after I met Babaji, and I was with him. I had this great idea that I would want to become a monk, a Hindu monk, a sannyasi, shaven head and orange robes and all that. I had seen some and I liked it, and I said, anyway, I'm not going back home, so let me do this. So I had this, but Babaji always discouraged me. Not for you, it's not your cup of tea. So I thought again, like the photographer thing, business, if he is not going to give me sannyas, I'll try and get it from somebody else. But it has to be given by somebody, allowed. And then with a shaven head and saffron robes, I'll go to him. And he'll say, good. My mind was working. So there is a very traditional ashram in Rishikesh called the Kailas ashram. It's very old and traditional place. Generally only Brahmins are admitted there as sannyasis and so on. Anyway, the head of that ashram was a great man. He was, even though it was very traditional, he was a great man. So I used to meet him early in the morning. I had a habit of going for a bath in the Ganga, in the Ganges river, at 4:30 in the morning. So I used to meet him, we used to talk, he loved me, he liked me very much, and so on. So one day in the morning I asked him, Maharaj, in India, it has two meanings. One is king, emperor, the other is a sadhu. Renunciant is also called Maharaj because he is the emperor of the whole world, not just one country. So I said, Maharaj, I have to ask you a question. You know me now for some days. I have read Vedanta. We have had several discussions. I have asked you doubts. Do you think I can take sannyas, which means can I become a monk, a renunciate? He said, of course, I think you are quite qualified to do that. I was very happy. I said, good Babaji, I will come back. I said, yeah, I think you can. But he said, I cannot do it inside the ashram because they are very traditional. And they have some rules about Brahmins, non-Brahmins. You cannot do it in the ashram. But what if I come to the banks of the Ganga in the morning and give you this? mantra of sannyas, who's going to ask me? I said, okay, good. So when? He said, tomorrow morning. That whole day I was sitting with Babaji, I was not talking. Babaji asked me, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm. So next day I went in the evening and got some orange cloth and all that. Late at night, Babaji said he is going up the mountains. He won't be back till the next day. So I said, okay, good idea, because I can shave my head. So I was thinking if he is planning this. So I went to the local barber and got a shave. I looked at myself, a very small mirror in the room. I'm looking nice. So, and with these clothes I went in the morning, and this Swamiji, this Maharaj, came. He was himself a very impressive looking man, shining face. He came and he said, I said, next day morning. So Maharaj, he said, I'm sorry, I can't give you sannyas. And then his eyes were filled with tears. And he said, why didn't you tell me that your guru doesn't want you to take sannyas? I said, he doesn't want me to, but you can give it to me, right? He said, no. He said, yesterday in the night I was sleeping and there was a knock at the door. And there was a yogi standing there. He said to me, who are you to give him a sannyasin's robe? Who are you? Who do you think you are? Are you so qualified to give him? I know when he should be a monk or not be a monk. You cannot decide. Who are you? Do you think you are so developed that you can do everything you want? So he said, then it occurred to me that I have heard of Maheshwarnath Babaji from some people, but I never had seen him. So it occurred to me that he is the man I wanted to see. And so I said, please bless me, I am sorry. He blessed me and went off and he said, I am thankful to you that I could see him, but no sannyas. Otherwise I wouldn't be sitting like this before you are wearing a robe. So, because Babaji's intention was that I should mix with everybody. I should carry what I have in my heart and talk to people like they are like me. So this is the reason why he didn't get me into this. Otherwise I would love to become. So that's story number 2. Do we need a story number 3? 3 chapters are over. What do I do?
I have a question.
Not now. This is like yesterday's meditation. Then, sir, what is meditation? Yeah. You know, in Rishikesh, in the hills, where we used to live in a cave, Moni Baba's cave, the hill, there were many elephants. There were also, then those days, leopards and so on, leopards. But there were also many, now also there are some elephants, but most of them have gone. So some sadhus, you know what are sadhus? Wandering spiritual, I don't know how to explain sadhus. They are people who have left home and always wandering, religious people. So they belong to a certain order called the Vaishnava order. They are called Babajis. They wear yellow marks here, and hair matted hair also. So some of these people came to see Babaji. I was also sitting there. And they said, Babaji, you need to help us. See, in what way? He used to be very abrupt sometimes. He said, in what way? He said, you have your gurus, why you come to me? No. Said, there is an elephant which is creating a lot of trouble here. You know, I don't know if you know this, but the male elephant sometimes moves out from its herd and becomes alone, lonely, and then something happens in him. This is the breeding season when there are some hormonal changes. It becomes very dangerous, the elephant. And it usually wanders alone. And usually a male elephant, a tusker. You know how much harm males have created in this world. Tusker. So, he said, they said that this tusker is already killed 2 people. And recently it killed 2 sadhus, religious people who were going up on a pilgrimage. So we have to, can you do something about this? Please help us. Babaji said, go and inform the forest department. He said, but we have told the forest department, nothing is happening. If you can do something, it will be nice for us. Because sadhus are being killed. He said, okay. Aap jaiye, said, you go, I'll see what I can do. So he sent them off. And I went to sleep. He never slept. I've never seen him sleep. The maximum I've seen him sometimes is leaning against the wall and sitting like this at night sometimes. I've never seen doze off. So at midnight, probably, I didn't have a watch then, must be midnight. He woke me up. And he said, let's go. I thought he's taking me to meditate somewhere, so in the cave or hill. I said, okay. We walked and it was full moon. It was fully lit. And there was a big rock and the valley, and that side some rocks. So on the big rock he sat down. Now I sat down next to him on the side. I thought now he's going to say, okay, now start your breathing. But he didn't say anything. And on the other side of the valley I saw a leopard going. It saw us from there. It turned and looked at us, and I held Babaji's hand tight. I didn't know what's going to happen. What if it jumps? Anyway, it looked and it didn't care, it went off. Now, suppose this is the rock where you're sitting, Anastasia is sitting, this side. There are some trees there, very big trees. And everything was quiet. It was the moon. It was beautiful. Suddenly, from behind, these elephants can stand in a place without making a single noise. They're so big that they can do this. The elephant was standing behind the trees. I didn't realize this. Suddenly, it charged from behind the trees. You know how an elephant charges? It's frightening. It makes a peculiar sound like a trumpet with its trunk, and then it just rushes in. I was horrified. It just charged. And if this is the rock, I just closed my eyes. I couldn't do anything else. And I held on to Babaji's left hand. I thought, if I'm going to die holding his hands. Maybe I'll go to heaven. So, suddenly the sound stopped. The sound of the trumpeting and the pushing, and it sounded as if it slipped on the sand, that grating sound, and there was silence. So I very carefully opened my eyes. And the elephant was about here, close by, and it was standing with its both legs bent down as if it was sitting, and its trunk was down, like a docile cat or something. And Babaji got up. He couldn't get up because I was holding his feet. So but I followed him. I didn't feel like sitting alone without support. So he went to the elephant, and into the elephant's ear he whispered, he loudly said, "Is this the way elephants behave?" I'm thinking, this man is talking to an elephant. And who knows what the elephant is going to do now. He said, "Is this the way to behave? You killed holy men, killing people. Shant ho jao. Calm down. Go back." So the elephant lifted his trunk and made one more trumpeting sound, sitting there. And then Babaji turned, I was standing right behind. He said, "You go and bow down to the elephant." I said, 3 times I thought death was near me. So, because he said, I couldn't say no, so I went and bowed down. The elephant put its trunk on my hip. Then I came out. Babaji said, "Let's go." The elephant stopped troubling people from that time. Okay? The sadhus came and thanked him. So after a couple of days, 4-5 days, I asked Babaji, "Okay, all that is fine. But why did you ask me to go and bow down to that elephant?" Has to be some explanation. He said 2 explanations. One, the same all-pervading Supreme Being whom you are seeking is also in the elephant. And 2, this elephant has been linked to you in your past life somewhere. Now I can't find out, so I said, "Okay, thank you." So like that, I had several. So I learnt mainly not through book reading, but by living with a person, a living yogi, so that the knowledge came spontaneously. It's not like book learning. I had to go through many tests, of course. You have to go through many tests before you learn how to clear your mind and open it. So that is enough for now, because then you won't read my book. So आपके पास, you had some question?
Yes. Who has your any car?
The what?
Your any car, the possessed, prized watch that you left at the Ganges banks.
You know, in my autobiography I have written that when I went to the Himalayas, I had a nice Enikar watch. Enikar used to be a good brand in those days. My grandfather got it for me. He was very fond of me, like you are fond of me. So, when I went to the Haridwar, to Rishikesh, I thought, why am I wearing a watch? What is the need for a watch? So I took it out and left it there. So he's asking me, who has it now? How do I know? I don't know who has it.
To part with an any car is, those days, is like parting with the gold.
Yeah, it was quite a good watch. I thought it was dust, not gold. Sir, I'll come back to you.
You touched upon the subject of Kriya Yoga not being the only path. So even Swami Vivekananda spoke about the 4 paths of yoga.
Yeah.
In that context, can one yoga be independent of another? Which means, can I have bhakti and not do kriya at the same time? Can I do Raja Yoga and not be a karma yogi? So, or a jnana yogi? Is this not linked to each other? Because Yogananda spoke about a mathematical progression of doing kriya and reaching the ultimate goal. So, is that the only way?
No. It's not the only way. Wait, sit down. Boshu. he comes from the land of Yogananda Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda, from Bengal. So I said to him in Bengali, please sit down. It's always good to have a judicious combination of all the disciplines if one can do it. That is the ideal thing to do. However, each person's background and inclination has to be checked before somebody can be taught a particular path. Some are very philosophical minded people. For them, all this is not their Vedantic thought. And there are some who are yogis, who like to actually sit cross-legged and meditate and so on. For that kind of person, Raj Yoga is a very good solution. But when you say Kriya Yoga and Raj Yoga as two different things, you are making a mistake. Because Kriya is also one of the techniques which come in Raj Yoga. However, you will not find any technique described in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, because they are sutras, they are aphorisms. They have to be commented upon and explained. You won't find it. But when the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali talk about pranayam, they are talking about different kinds of kriya. So there are different kinds of kriyas. Kriya simply means a method, a technique. That's what it means. But just by having a technique, you cannot do anything unless you understand your blueprint, where you are going, why you are doing, and also leading a life which is conducive to meditation. You can't separate the two. Which is why in the textbook called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, in the West, it is called Ashtanga Yoga, which means yoga of the 7 limbs, 7 parts. In the West, it was popularized by B.K.S. Iyengar. So now people call it Iyengar Yoga. But the Ashtanga Yoga means yoga of 8 parts. The first 2 parts are called Yama and Niyama, which means rules and regulations to be followed by the practitioner. Now in the rules and regulations, you get the moral side of not to injure others and so on and so forth. And then comes pranayam and so on and so forth. But don't mistake that the only kriya in this world is the one which has come from Babaji's parampara, which is mine, tradition. There are many other kriyas. So which is why I am saying that what I said. There are many kriyas, it's not just that. However, when I say kriya, I am talking about the kriya which comes from Babaji. But there are different traditions. But if you can put them all slightly together, but you cannot do it. You need a teacher to decide how much you can take from each path and make it into a kind of good combination. That will be nice. Sorry.
Coming to the part of the Upanishad that you explained, take out full or take out complete from complete, what remains is complete. That means mathematically, infinity minus infinity is equal to infinity, which looks to be absurd. Mathematically 4 minus 4 is equal to 0. Anything minus the same thing is equal to 0. But here, infinity minus infinity, what remains is infinity.
But that is so.
Yeah.
But it is the theory which in physics has become the quantum theory of physics, which is that the energy as a whole, E is equal to mc squared, means that the energy content in totality can neither be reduced nor increased. It is always the same. That is in physics. We are saying its background is that the reality which is spiritual consciousness also is always full. You cannot subtract or take out anything from it.
Sir, carrying over from the initial discussion on Bhagavad Gita that you mentioned.
Also from Bengal.
See, Duryodhan, when Krishna interacted with Duryodhan said, Jnanami dharmam nachame pravritti. So the question is there a choice as to when you get attracted to it, or is it
Attracted to?
to the path of spiritual progression? Is that your choice? Is that you making the decisions, or?
Can you make it a little more clear?
Okay. So,
I can understand.
yes. So
yeah.
the question is it in your hands as to when you get attracted to the path of spirituality, or is it given to you by the grace of the Guru, the God?
Let me explain this to you a little carefully. Several people get interested on the spiritual path in different stages of their life, right? Some while they're young, some when they're middle-aged, some when they're old. You can't say that there is no difference. Yes, there is. Now, there are different reasons why I personally understand that the inspiration to seek the spiritual in potential seed form is there in all human beings. It's built in. But not knowing which way to go, people look for it in different ways. Everybody has the seed of spiritual. Some people try to find it in the bottle which has spirit. Why? Because when you drink, your central nervous system is paralyzed for a while. So you are free from your rational thought. You think you can drive the car through the window. That's the negative side, of course. So why do people drink? Because they want to somehow be free of this little logical world which they are inside. Even they have an inclination to become spiritual. They are finding a wrong way, that's all. Right? So it is there in potential. Now, your question applies to when is it awakened in people? There are different situations when this is awakened. For some the seed is awakened when they are disgusted with the world. They have seen enough. There is pain. They can't stand it. What is this life? Is there something more? Some people look at it that way. There are others who from childhood have this inclination because of many past birth influences, but who's bogged down by daily life and this life. So for such people, suddenly one day they read something and they say, hey, even I have some kind of a feeling. So it awakens in them. But there are many who have the inclination but who don't do anything about it. That is in your hands. Okay? There are others, some other kind of people. You see, the thing is, when a yogi or when a person has touched that which is sacred, he has a certain magnetism inside him, which when people come near or talk or meet, it's kind of spreads a little bit into the other person's heart, even if there is no talk. And then they say, can we be like him or her? And then there is this pull. And the idea of spiritual fulfillment, which was bogged down because of your life's practical considerations, is awakened and strengthened when you meet somebody who has it. So for some it happens that way. So there are many ways it happens, but the innate seed for spiritual development is there in every human being. There was a a weaver saint in India who used to live in Banaras in Varanasi. He was a weaver and his name was Kabir. Kabir has this beautiful story about the Kasturi Mriga. Kasturi Mriga is a musk deer. You know, in the Himalayas, there is a kind of variety of deer from which musk is taken. You know the musk which you use in perfume? In India it's called Kasturi. The musk comes in a small pouch under his abdomen, actually near his ass. There is a small this is where musk is created. And in the season when the musk is produced, there is a beautiful fragrance in the air. And the poor deer goes looking for the source of this fragrance everywhere in the forest, puts its head into the thorns, gets bleeding, but doesn't know that it's coming from under its own bottom. This fragrance. So Kabir Das said, this is the situation of us human beings. There is this fragrance, but we are searching for it outside. It is inside. So one can turn inside and look for it. Perhaps one finds it. And if one finds it, then one finds that what is inside is also outside. But it has to start from inside. Am I making any sense? Yes. Sometimes I ask myself. Yes, sir?
You talk about churning out the poison. Can you explain more about that?
In the ancient texts, there is a story of how the gods and the demons, but please understand, in the Indian system of thought, there is no partition or wall between the devas and the demons. Some demons are good and some devas are bad also. There is no that, like in Semitic religions, there is a wall. This is the devil and this is God. But no, it's not there. It's like when you say devas, it means like an electric anode, plus, and asura is the cathode, minus. Doesn't mean minus in the negative way, but both are required for things to proceed. So the devas and the which means the good and the bad forces, let's put it that way, or the positive and negative forces as personalities, try to churn the universal ocean of milk with it called Samudra Manthan, churning, with a snake as the rope, and the Mount Meru as the churning rod. And when they churn the ocean of milk, the first thing that comes out is poison, deadly poison. And then slowly, after many layers of poison comes out, comes the nectar, the sweet nectar of immortality. Actually, the word nectar in Sanskrit would be amrita. And amrit in Sanskrit means deathlessness, amrita. Finding that which never dies. It's not anything to do with sweets which are made in the temple and it's nice, tasty, amrit. So, this also happens in your spiritual practices, especially if one is so sincere and is completely concentrating on his spiritual life, other things aside, there is a churning that takes place. Sometimes the teacher himself chants. Then sometimes the poison comes out. What happens is, some people, when the poison comes out, forget about the journey and get carried away by the poison. Those who persist find the nectar. Many kinds of students come to a teacher. Some go halfway and then the poison comes out and then they're caught in it, finished. There are some who don't care and continue patiently, suffering the consequences of the poison. Then they move forward. This happens in spiritual life. Like, if you have to convert water into vapor, you need to heat it. When you heat it, naturally there are bubbles coming out. Because deep down in our psyche, there are many impressions carried from the past, carried from this life, which are sitting there. So when the heat is applied, they come up. Now that is where you need a help from a teacher who says, not to worry, this comes, I know it. Hold on. Because the job of the teacher is to show you a polished mirror so that you see your actual reflection there. And the first reflections are very, sometimes ugly. Because it's coming from inside. One second. Correct.
How do you find a good teacher?
I'm laughing because it is such a difficult question. You know, I should reserve my comments on this. Nowadays there are more teachers than students.
Is it grace that you'll find the right teacher for yourself?
No, let me finish this. And we have a story in India of a young man who went to a teacher, and spiritual teacher, Rishi, and he said, "Sir, I want to become your disciple, so what am I supposed to do?" He said, he gave him a list. You have to get up in the morning at 4 o'clock. When he heard that, half his heart fell, but at 4 o'clock, and then you have to have a dip in the river and in the cold water. Come back, then you have to clean the place where the Guru sits, bring firewood, yeah? And so many things. Then learn lessons and so on. And do your asanas, stand on your head for an hour, and so on. So he listened to this, he thought this is an impossible task to become a... He said, what do we do to become a guru? He said, you just have to sit and put your hand up. And he said, can you make me the guru? Because I don't think this is... So, unfortunately, it's difficult. But you can make out easily. A sincere spiritual seeker can certainly make out if there is a spirit. Don't judge by appearance. Don't judge by paraphernalia. You know what I mean? Judge by the heart. And be with the person for a while before you judge. Before you make a judgment. Above all, see if he desires to give you something or he wants to take something from you. If on the second day he says, take out your checkbook, run away. You know what I mean? So, it's not as if there are no spiritual teachers. There are. Many of them are unknown. Now, you read the autobiography, you know there is M here and so on, but there are many great teachers who are unknown. We don't know where they are. But if there is a sincere aspirant, a seeker, they will find him or her. This I know from my own experience. If you're really sincere, you don't have to run around. You don't have to go to the Himalayas or anything. You can go to them, it's nice, but they may be right there in your backyard. But once you find the person, you should be able to kind of first give some time to understand. And don't get attracted because he's a good-looking guy. He may even be ugly. It's the heart that matters. Above all, know the person for a while. Because it's very easy to sit here and smile and appear to be friendly. What do I do at home? Who knows? My wife knows. So, watch the person under all circumstances. And then if you decide, this is my cup of tea, then go ahead. Once you have done it, don't dilly-dally afterwards. Hold on. Something came into my head and vanished. That's my problem. Things come and they vanish. Because finally there is nothing. It was quite relevant to the subject which you asked. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you a story, a Sufi story about a guru, about a teacher. There was this man who lived in the deserts, near the small town in the desert. He was very young. He had a spiritual inclination to move in the spiritual path. But he was also born very poor. So he also had wanted to make money. Because he didn't have money. So in the process of life, his desire for spiritual practice was kind of bogged down by his desire to make money. So he made money. He became a big trader. In the Sufi terminology, in the Middle East, when you say you're a rich man, which means you're a trader with many caravans. That's what it means. So he became a rich man. At the age of 55, he decided that the happiness which I used to seek in my young age, I haven't found yet. This money is not helping me. I have anything I can buy with money, but I can't buy happiness. So, the little flame of desire for spiritual fulfillment which was in his heart sputtered up again. So he said, now everything is done. He gave away his caravans, camels, everything to his sons, to his daughters, to his children. Kept a little money so that he could build a small cottage in the oasis. In the deserts, an oasis is a place where there is water, little bit of water. So in the oasis, he built a small cottage for himself. Meanwhile, he had collected many spiritual books. So he took many of the books also, and the rest he gave away. Became free. The problem was, since he had become a rich man, he did not know how to survive because he never went to the kitchen. He couldn't even make a cup of tea. There were servants. Tea, it would come, coffee. So he thought, now what about my food? So he went to the village looking for a cook and he found one. So the cook went with him. So there were only two of them. He and the cook and the books. 7 years he studied the books, he meditated. The end of 7 years it occurred to him that which I am seeking, I don't think I can find without the help of a spiritual teacher. It took him 7 years. So he started looking for a spiritual teacher. He went everywhere looking. One day he saw a very vulnerable looking man coming with a flowing white beard and a green turban and all the paraphernalia and a very shining face. I don't know what moisturizer he used. So he saw him coming. So he went to him and bowed down and said, "Sir, please accept me as your disciple." I think you're a great spiritual teacher. The man said to him, how do you know that I'm a great spiritual teacher? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't accept you as a disciple because I don't accept any disciples without asking my master. I have a master, I have to ask him. So he said, then why don't you ask your master? He said, that is the big problem. My master has disappeared for 7 years. I don't know where he is. I don't know where he is. If I find him, I will ask him and take you as my disciple. So this man was very eager. He said, listen, I will also help you to find him. Can you give me a description? So I will also come and look. So he gave him a description. He said he's a very short man. Usually doesn't wear any clothes on the upper body. Has a towel on his. Only wears a white lungi. This man said, no, this is a very difficult identification. A small man, who knows how many are there like. Then he said, yeah, there's one thing. He cooks very well. He's a good cook. So this man said, this description sounds like my cook who's been with me for 7 years. He said, sir, please can you come with me? So he took him there. The kitchen door opened and out came the cook with a towel on his. As soon as the cook came out, this man fell down at his feet and said, oh master, where have you been? He said, I was with this guy. 7 years. But he said, but this guy is still looking for a teacher. He said, yeah, I know, it took me 7 years to make him understand that he needed a teacher. So now please take him as your disciple because I have other things, important things to do. I'm going. And walked out. This is a story of a teacher. So it's yes.
Can nature also be a teacher? The beautiful nature, flowers, meadows, mountains.
Can nature be a teacher? Yes. Nature also can be a teacher. Also. As long as you don't spoil nature, you don't misuse nature, and you allow nature to be as it is. You know why we feel the mind expand when we go to the sea? Because it is not man-made. It's not man-made. So when you go to the sea, it's a wide expanse and your heart also expands. Go to the mountains. Why do most people feel wonderful because they're not man-made? And you can't get them through Alibaba. They're there. So, nature, which is why rishis and great teachers always like to live in the midst of nature. So nature, animals, everything can be adopted as a teacher. There is a great teacher in India called Dattatreya. There is a beautiful writing called the Song of Dattatreya, in which he says he had 24 teachers, of which only one is a human being. The rest are all ants and honeybees. He says from the honeybee he learned how to collect enough so that he can enjoy in winter. And from the ant he learned how industriously you have to work to go inside and build and stay. And so on and so forth. So nature can be a great teacher. Unfortunately, many of us exploit nature. I know people who cannot look at a forest without saying how many tons of timber can we get from here. I have a guy who drives my car in India. The moment he sees any goat or sheep or anything, The only thing his mind works is how many kgs of meat are there in this. Except pigs, he doesn't like pigs. I try to tell him little piglets are very beautiful, but no, pigs. Not to eat, I mean. So nature is a wonderful thing. Why do you think we are sitting here and talking, listening, being happy? Because we are in the heart of nature. We are in the lap of nature. The buildings are there because otherwise it's too cold to protect us. Right? It's 11:45, 12 is lunch. So I think you should go now and get ready for lunch. We meet again. I think we should meet at 3 o'clock instead of 2:30. Yeah. So we meet at 3 o'clock and then we'll discuss some more things. And I'm telling you, before we leave from this, I will also discuss some practical hints on Kriya and so on. Okay? Yeah, I promise. Don't think I'm just telling stories. I think you need to learn, Thank you very much. Okay?